place.
Has willingly told us two things about flying saucers. A, they don't exist, and B, no government agency has any more information about the subject than has already been made public. But UFO investigators charge the documents in their possession prove that the military and the government since the end of World War II have orchestrated a constant and effective campaign of disinformation concerning UFOs. Our government has flat out lied to us for 40 years or more. They threatened people and intimidated people. They've spied on UFO groups, infiltrated UFO groups, spied on researchers, compiled dossiers. Their response is bordered on paranoia. In 1988, reporter George Knapp of Las Vegas CBS television station KLAS began investigating the U.S. government's involvement with UFOs. He says he found evidence proving a massive cover-up that began in 1947 and continues to this day. The CIA says that it does not collect information on UFOs, and it hasn't since the 50s. There are reams of documents squeezed out of the CIA that indicate that they have on staff CIA UFO experts, agency personnel monitoring the situation on an ongoing basis. The FBI denied having any documents on UFOs in the 1970s, the early 1970s. 3 years later, they released 1,700 pages of information on UFO documents that they had. They lied. But for UFO researchers, there is one persistent problem with those hundreds of released pages. Most, like this 1958 UFO memo to President Eisenhower, have been censored, essentially making them unreadable. Even this National Security Agency document explaining why UFO data should remain secret is itself almost entirely blacked out. Ironically, the official position of the U.S. government is that UFOs are not a threat to national security. Yet the agencies involved claim that sensitive information is vital to national security. From 1947 to 1969, the Air Force conducted Project Blue Book. That was just 3 people in studying 12,000 UFO sightings. All but 701 were explained to the military satisfaction. And the group that remained unexplained, it does not contain any pattern or purpose or consistency that we can relate to any conceivable threat to the United States. The Air Force closed the book in 1969, but Project critics were satisfied. The United States government has spent a lot of time and effort debunking UFOs, even to the point of turning the whole thing into a joke.
Of all the items in our stock catalog, there is only one which would have the high velocity and low wind resistance of flying saucers. The cover of a GI trash can.
But some military people, like retired Marine Major Donald Keogh, spoke out, accusing the government of hiding what it knows about UFOs.
This is not an attack on the Air Force spokesman or the Congress spokesman. They are simply following orders to turn away all UFO sightings as quickly as possible when they become public. I deny that UFOs really exist.
We have not been hiding anything. The investigations have been made public. The explanations of those where there is a full explanation have been made public.
What the Air Force hadn't made public was that its pilots had been reporting UFO contacts in World War II. The Air Force was so concerned that in 1953, it even sent its own planes on a mission to seek out and photograph flying saucers. John Kirby was one of the pilots. After 19 days in the air, he and his fighter group spotted 16 objects 2 miles to the west. They broke, like, this started moving, they were below, they were above us, they were out above us, and they saw it. We were at 1 feet, and the dot in the distance, maybe several miles away from us. At that point, maybe a single point, all of a sudden, closing on you at the rate of several thousand miles an hour,
and a 36-foot object, which is basically almost the same size as our aircraft, 36-foot wingspan, but all of a sudden this thing is just closing on you faster than you're able to think.
After two more encounters with smaller groups of discs, the Air Force called off the mission because of the physical effects on the flight crews. Kirkwood went on to become a commercial pilot, and later he began to talk about his UFO encounters. That quickly earned him a visit from two government agents who told him to stop.
And he said, well, the government doesn't like the information being released, and to continue could be detrimental to your health.
Kirkwood says the pilots shot thousands of feet of film of UFOs. That film has never been made public. Other government officials, including a senator and two men who became presidents, have tried unsuccessfully to shed some light on the UFO phenomenon. Arizona Senator Barry Goldwater, President Gerald Ford, and President Jimmy Carter, who actually saw a UFO himself and filed a formal report, have all sought to have top-secret UFO information released to the public. All requests for that information were denied. Cover-up allegations aren't limited to the United States government either. Author Timothy Good claims that governments around the world are keeping UFO information top secret. And in his book, Above Top Secret, he claims only an elite few have access to that information.
And we must emphasize that very few people within the government have the faintest idea of what's happening. Because the little of the research is made known to prominent.
One country is ducking that trend. Belgium has acknowledged tracking unidentified, seemingly intelligently controlled craft in its airspace. Radar tapes released by the Air Force showed objects jumping from 200 meters to 2,000 meters in 1 second, a distance of just over a mile. The Belgian Air Force has even put aside a plane to search for the object. But the attitude of the United States remains very different. UFO experts claim our government is conducting top-secret research into UFOs in the middle of the Nevada desert. South of the dry lake bed known as Area 51 is a place known as S4, allegedly home to a super-secret government research facility. In the course of our investigation, we found a scientist who said he was delirious. Robert Lazar was shocked when he first discovered what it was he was working on.
And the boss told to walk directly to the hangar, and immediately, even before entering the hangar, you can see the edge of a disc. This is a classic flying saucer, two inverted pie plates, this is with a segmented larger area dome on top. Within minutes of that, I finally realized that this had nothing to do with something the government was producing. And that was quite shocking because everything inside was small. This was a full-size craft, 30, 35 feet diameter, maybe 40. If you're looking at that tubes that are, 18 inches off the ground, obviously made, for something small. And certainly wasn't made for children to fly in. Lazar says there were 9 spaceships in all, and he claims 15 went flying. He had left off the ground almost violently. There was a sound, like a corona discharge, as you hear around high voltage systems, accompanied by a faint, it probably would have been brighter at night, faint blue glow around the bottom. As the craft approached about 30 feet, 20 feet, something like that off the ground, that corona discharge disappeared. The sound stopped, and the craft stood there silently, and fully drifted over to the left and to the right.
The government denies they've testing alien craft at S4. Lazar no longer works there, and now they spend time working on some of his hobbies, jet car racing. He alleges it has to be much public. Security officers at the base threatened his life. He also says that his employment and military service records have disappeared. Despite repeated requests, the government can't find them. The subcontractor who hired him for the job at S4 refuses to comment. But a few clues support Lazar's contention that he is a scientist and that he has worked for the government. This W-2 form indicates that he had been employed by the Department of Naval Intelligence. Before his stint at S4, Lazar claims to have worked at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. Los Alamos officials can't find any record of it, but his name does appear in a laboratory phone book from that time. Reporter George Knapp was able to track down a few of Lazar's colleagues who could confirm parts of his story. But when you talk to Knapp,
something strange happened. One after another had visits from government personnel who basically intimidated or told them to back off, followed them around. There didn't have to be any direct communication where an agent said, you keep talking to this guy, you're going to end up in the river. The message was very clear.
Since Lazar's story broke, Area 51 has become a hotbed for UFO sightings.
Now, you feel what I'm saying? Are you seeing things zip back and forth, or is it just... You see that? It just drifts to the left. See again?
While our cameras were there, a flashlight appeared in the night sky. A blue sun continued to float below the mountaintop. Analysis of our videotape proved inconclusive. Those who'd like to know the answers are talking.
I've been covering organized crime in Las Vegas for 10 years, dealing with mob hitmen and mob informants, people who fit into the witness protection program. The fear that is generated by this UFO subject for people who really know about it far outweighs the kind of fear that the mob inspires. I mean, people are more afraid of our government than they are of organized crime.
I am exactly sure of what I saw. I know what mainstream science is like. I know what physics stands. I know all of that. And this is an extraterrestrial craft. This technology is hundreds and hundreds of years in advance of us, and that's the end of that story. Tonight, we have heard from dozens of primary encounters with UFOs and aliens. But if it's all true, skeptics wonder why aliens haven't landed on the White House lawn. They go funny. UFO ethicists put forward one engaging theory. He states that we are leading a scientific conditions for the eventual revelation of alien life forms to more official UFO information, proof of information that more people are willing to talk. And when the day finally comes, and the facts are made public, the shock to our collective system would be, but then, so missing. For the UFO report, I'm Jim
En esta ocasión estamos percibiendo una luz. Ahí vemos que se regresa sobre la ciudad. Al silencio que nos plateado. Día 25 de junio. Hacia arriba. No lo ves, pero... Yo sé que en el momento que está arriba de esto, ahí va el avión, ahí va el avión, tengo la antena de televisión. Está chiquitito, ¿no ves? No digo una palabra. Ahí está la Biblia. Mira cómo brilla. No,
between you and nations. The bond between those between the and flying into all
There's something strange happening in the sky, particularly above Victoria. Witnesses to strange occurrences have been dialing in by the dozens, looking for answers.
It's been many, many calls each night with multiple witnesses with each call that's been coming in. We're getting about 160 calls over the last 3.5 weeks, and people are actually seeing orange lights, and it's variations from 1 to 9 orange lights over that time period.
Wow, look at the lights! Southeast of Melbourne, households and high street have witnessed a rash of so-called unidentified flying objects. Diane Walker was called late one night by a neighbour, feeling like above their suburbs of marijuana. Took this video after watching it for several nights in a row.
We didn't find out UFOs, we just wondering what they were.
We came out and we looked up the sky and it's just orange light going across and it was like, wow, you know, with it. There was clouds and it was really, really quiet. So it couldn't have been an aircraft, airplane, or absolutely anything. It was just bright light. It's just fantastic. Just really, really great.
Are people concluding that they're UFOs?
They are, because there's no other explanation to it. They're looking at, as we spoke of, the process of elimination. It's not a plane, it's not a chopper, it's something that cannot be explained.
So it's unidentified.
Yes.
Do they think it's something from outside this planet?
Yes, they do. From beyond this planet, that's what they're looking at. We can come to you, though, Kerry, if we can have final numbers for yesterday.
Yes, we had a total of 105 people. The sightings have created enormous excitement among true believers. At this committee meeting for the fledgling UFO Encounters group, the feeling is one of anticipation.
People were talking about yesterday the love that they feel and the response that they have. And quite a few people, I heard them say, I can't give it to you in words because I have a feeling in here, a love that I have never felt before, and I have no words to describe that to you.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
We follow your UFO researchers like panning for gold. You have a whole lot of dirt and rubbish in the dish, but somewhere along the end of the line you hope you're going to get some of the things.
Of course, not everyone is as readily convinced that these are visitations from another planet.
Well, I think that they've been helium-filled balloons, and the little thing on the bottom here, they could be tied to the balloons and inserted into the balloons and then released.
So, pranksters attaching fluorescent sticks to helium-filled balloons threatens to undermine the concept that another life form has arrived.
Is there something? You what?
Is it possible this is simply a hoax with balloons and fluorescent?
The only thing that I can say to you about that, Julie, is that the formation that people are seeing and the movement that these objects are making, it eliminates totally that idea.
There's been no complete explanation for life. Therefore, authorities say they no longer track UFO sightings, leading the research to voluntary UFO.
When I investigated UFOs for this show, I found that hoaxing was not as common as a lot of people thought, and people were genuinely very sincere.
Nick Pope is a former UFO investigator for the British Defence Ministry. In his experience, many calls are quite likely to be legitimate UFO sightings.
It was a common myth that these things are seen by people coming back from having a drink, say, late at night. But here with the Victoria side of things, well, a lot of people do the same thing, so undoubtedly there's something happening.
Will they be back here?
How about something like this? I'm not feel confident.
Our industry executive California, Joe Furnish, has changed his life completely after what he believed was an unearthly apparition. He has now set up his International Space Sciences Organization, and he is spending millions to research what life could be like, what he thinks it might be like beyond our solar system. Joe Furnish is coming to our San Francisco studio. Mr. Furnish, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you. People are saying that anyone who sacrifices a chief executive officer career like yours and millions of dollars must be crazy. Are you?
Well, depends on the perspective you come from. I will leave the answer to that question to the history books.
But you've sunk millions of dollars into this. Why? What's the purpose?
Well, the purpose is to help raise the consciousness of people all over the world to pay attention to some things that are more important than what we're going to cook for dinner this evening.
So precisely what is it you're saying? I mean, let's get down to the specifics here.
Let me be clear. What I am basically saying is that the grand sweeping saga of human history does have a direction. It has a point. It has a path and a trajectory. And that trajectory is clearly pointing towards the day, and I think someday in the not too distant future, when we will break through the constraint of gravity that holds us to this world. We will be able to voyage one day beyond our solar system and visit other worlds. Why do I reach that conclusion? Well, 3 reasons. Number one, there's overwhelming evidence from virtually every nation and every culture on Earth throughout the history books and into recent times of unusual phenomena. Many people call it UFOs or unidentified flying objects flying around in the sky. There's overwhelmingly consistent and good evidence that is in fact occurring. Reason number two, there are rigorously peer-reviewed physics papers that are now in print, that have only become in print in the last 5 years or so, that clearly suggest how this could work. And third, the opportunity that I've had, having entered this space, is to meet with some of the most senior military and scientific people in the United States of America, who have privately confirmed to me the reality of the UFO phenomenon.
Now, you claim to have had a personal encounter with an otherworldly being. Tell me about that.
I was reading papers which for the first time clearly described a way to engineer gravity. That's a revolutionary concept. And so one night, after reading one of these papers, I went to sleep, and the next morning I had a rather unusual experience. I refer to it more like a near-death experience than an actual encounter, because the being that I saw in my bedroom was more like an image than a tangible object. But we had a very interesting conversation, and it was quite germane to the subject that I've been studying.
So tell me about the conversation, because you expressed a willingness to die at one stage in the conversation.
Yes, it was sort of halfway between sleep and awake. I had a conversation with this image, and he said, "Why have you bothered me?" He looked perplexed and bothered. "Why have you bothered me?" And I said, "Because I want to travel in space." And he chuckled and said, "Well, why should you have that opportunity?" And I said, "Because I'm willing to die for it." I've studied the domains of astronomy and physics all my life, and so that's always been a deeply hidden passion of mine, a dream, if you will, and so it was an appropriate response.
What do you say to those people who would argue that all you're doing is trying to cash in on the enduring UFO craze?
Sure. Well, look, that's a fair criticism from afar, but if you look at the facts, this is costing me a lot of money, and it's going to cost a lot more money. I haven't made a dime on this venture, and I have no profit motive to speak of. I'm basically simply trying to share 15 years worth of research into a domain which I consider to be the most important domain of study, period, today. I think it's very important that people wake up and just consider that some advanced civilizations out there in the vast cosmos that we see at night have figured out the answers to the physics questions that we are now just gaining a glimpse of. If they have, then not only is the UFO phenomenon plausible, it is overwhelmingly probable. And any physicist will tell you the same thing.
Because it could also be suggested that you're trying to start a new religion.
Well, it could be suggested, but that would be inaccurate. I am trying to initiate something like a movement to expose people to a broader worldview than what they see every day on television.
You have expressed a willingness to die. Are you not asking others to join you?
No, of course not. That's ridiculous. The discussion that I had that morning, the halfway between waking and sleeping, I don't know how to characterize it. I didn't claim it was an alien encounter. I reported it as it happened, as it was. I am not asking people to do anything other than read and consider and study. I think this is something that's fundamentally important, but it would be grossly inaccurate to characterize this as any sort of cult.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
Goodbye.
We'll be back with more of Today in a moment.
So you're saying that you have personally viewed objects on the moon that are not just part of the moon?
That's correct. I had a sighting with 6 people, found me 8 people. Together we were at the elevation of 7,000 feet where we set up our telescope, where we observed 2 nights in a row 3 enormous large objects in the crater Archimedes. And cigar-shaped, 2, one crater in the northern part, one spacecraft in the northern part, and 2 in the southern part of the crater. So when I made contact with other people that were interested in the same subject, they confirmed my findings because they too had seen different objects, large objects on the moon.
That sounds like something that would have to be seen by professional astronomers at the big observatories. Are they talking?
Some of them do, some of them don't. I remember one case of Walter Haas, was a professional astronomer that in the 1940s already had observed these mysterious objects on the moon and moving lights. And he had organized a group of astronomers that observed hundreds of these objects over a period of several weeks.
Now, as I understand it, your book talks about things that NASA found, that the astronauts found when they went there. What did they find?
For instance, astronaut Stafford made a statement that he is observing right now very little volcanoes on the moon. They found by leaving seismic instrumentation on the surface that there is still seismic activity that's registering there. That means that the moon is not a dead place, that something is taking place inside in its interior. They found water, geysers spraying water over a wide area on the surface. And they also, when they approached, the Apollo astronauts approached a surveyor spacecraft that had landed there earlier by remote control. They removed the camera system, and the whole spacecraft was thoroughly sterilized, everything. And when they brought the system back to Earth, they found microbes, not only on the lens, outside but also inside the lens growing in the camera system. And so consequently, microbes, according to my interpretation, means something alive. And if there are microbes on the moon, that may lead to other living things.
And what about the alien bases themselves? What evidence have you got of that, and what do you think is there?
From my studies and my photographs, I find many oval and cigar-shaped and round glowing objects on the moon. On the lunar backside, I have studied an area that shows 10 objects neatly parked in rows. Of course, it takes about 40-50 times enlargement to see anything clearly, or probably clearly. But still, you can know for sure that this is something that is artificial. It's not artificial, but it's man-made, because there are rows lined up of seem to be like egg-shaped objects, oval objects that have to be made by some intelligent creatures in the civilization. If I'm mistaken, in 1952, I actually did an enormous, approximately over 1 mile long spacecraft. This is a picture that I have on my front page. That's a NASA photo that shows an enormous large object between our orbiting spacecraft and the lunar surface. There's another one behind it up on top, you can see, and also the shadow that is cast on the left of the ship is behind it, showing you that it's about to blow. It's a construction of the moon, and it was extremely artificial abilities made a perfectly cut of this huge setup on this side, on the left side of it, which is about 30 miles in length.
Everything you're saying runs contrary to what we're told about the moon and about what we found on the moon, which suggests that a huge secret is being kept. Why is that secret being kept?
The moon, from a military engineering point of view, would be a perfect base for us. We could go there, we could set up bases, we could live there for a great length of time, and could watch the Earth, and that's very empowered. From the military point of view, it would be a tremendous advantage for us to keep this as secret as possible.
Welcome to Sightings Frontier Flight. The videotape you're about to see is different. It was shot in late 1994 in the government's own backyard, the super secret Nellis test range in southern Nevada. And the tape not been spoken about, although classified by authorities. The basic employees in this report appear at considerable professional risk, and therefore their identities have been heavily disguised. We will control cameras monitoring the 7,700 square miles of airspace above the Nellis range. The cameras record fighter jet training, tactical exercises, and in at least one case, this UFO. The video from the tracking location will only S-3. Respect the Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. Personnel there monitoring what is supposed to be classified data about aircraft runs over the 300 acres of the Nellis range. And unknown aircraft may be flying out to the complex. Since there was a journalist to the summit, is not considered standard operating procedure. I don't think you really see any of it longer than the bags of the third I'm sure I thought it was the potential for serious accident. Somebody is really strange, deep in the vein, and yet somebody obviously did stray in, and in front of the camera's remote control operators. This craft shows off, and it's like they're playing with the kids. So when we really want to find out, it's scary. I've never seen anything like this. This is one of the first ever seen anything this nature. It's supposed to take years. It seems to move in whichever direction it's flying over everyone. Contrary to any Video footage of supposed UFOs. What do you think? He has never seen anything like an UFO. And I first looked at that thing, I said, wow. And I continued to say, wow. There are only three things that could be on that thing. One, very elaborate, very expensive box. I don't think that's what we're seeing. The second is some kind of a black project, a secret project that has some very useful aerodynamic characteristics. And third, if you can eliminate all those aerodynamic issues, could be the true unknown. And if that is, it comes to that conclusion. You have a pretty interesting piece of history right there. To rule out the possibility of a hoax, citing as the government subcontractor who uses the same image analysis computer as the Department of Defense to analyze the S-30 tapes. He has asked to remain anonymous.
The video appears to be genuine. Specifically, it was taken by contractor personnel that are operating tracking sites for the United States Air Force.
Could the Nellis UFO be a rare glimpse at a military black project? The stealth bomber is one former black project tested in Nevada and early on misidentified by civilians as a UFO. But our sources insist that when black projects are tested, the tracking cameras are deactivated.
Camera operators and tracking sites are not exposed to those highly classified aircraft on a typical basis.
Chuck DeCaro and the government video engineer compared notes on the possibility that this UFO was a black project.
What's startling about it is that it doesn't resemble any shapes that I would know immediately. And that's why I thought it was interesting to start with.
It almost appears to be like spherical in the center and with appendage on the bottom and on the top. You don't see any evidence of rotors.
And also the startling thing is it seems to change shape.
Another anomalous characteristic of the object is its apparent ability to change shape instantaneously.
The physical profile of the object changes almost frame to frame. And sometimes it appears almost to be a fuzzy, gassy cloud. In some portions of the video, it appears to be several spherical objects surrounding a dark mass.
To get a better look at the flight characteristics of the Nellis UFO, sightings consulted with Chip Peterson, a video processing expert. He stabilized and enhanced several minutes of the S-30 video.
I basically moved each frame, and you can see the frame's actually moving now, showing the degree that I had to move the image in order to keep this object stable in the center.
The stabilized image clearly shows the odd shape of the object shifting and turning in the sky.
I then took the numbers one by one and reconstructed the flight path, and that's the only way I could determine what the actual motion was. And I recreated that in 3 dimensions. It's initially heading away from the camera, and it abruptly changes, and during this phase, the range is increasing. It's actually going away from the camera. And at this point, it changes direction. Wind wouldn't do that. It wouldn't change that abruptly. And it wouldn't follow a constant radius throughout this entire portion here. It's all a constant distance from the camera. It's as if it's observing the ground position just as the ground is observing it and maintaining this constant distance.
Based on his knowledge as an aerospace engineer, Peterson offered one possible explanation for the abrupt turns performed by the UFO.
You could interpret it as if it determined it was on a radar at this point. Perhaps if you're on radar, of course you can sense that over in your plane. You know when you're being tracked. As soon as you get a lock where you get this radar signal, it would seem to me that this object was interested in who's observing it, and it turned in order to find out. When something starts to change shape like that, you become very, very puzzled because you realize that you're looking at something that appears to involve a whole new technology that we don't understand. What you want to do, of course, is go and find the person who's invented this and say, whatever made you think of that, and what does it do, and how does it do it?
But we will probably never know who created this new technology. Questions about the earthly or otherworldly origins of the Nellis UFO are unanswerable. Until the mastermind behind this craft comes forward, there is only speculation.
Like Australian the instinct there is. That's the serial.
To this day, the origin of the UFO has not been determined. Sightings forwarded a copy of this videotape to the Pentagon requesting an official response. As of this broadcast, the Air Force has not responded to sightings requests. No one disputes that there have been unidentified flying objects sighted around the world. Where ufologists and skeptics differ is in how they interpret these sightings. Some skeptics believe that all UFOs are really conventional aircraft, while others see a deliberate hoax. Just how common are UFO hoaxes, and how do the experts weed them out? Each year, there are more than 10,000 UFO sightings reported in the United States alone. Many of those sightings are documented on film or videotape. But how many of these sightings are genuine, unidentified, and unexplainable flying objects? Sightings has received hundreds of photographs, films, and tapes of supposed UFOs. The experts we use to analyze these reports are very careful in determining what they consider to be credible.
UFO photographs that are hoaxed are hard to do. When there are hoaxes, we can find them.
With the use of sophisticated equipment, expert UFO analysts try to methodically separate fact from fantasy, genuine UFO from obvious hoax.
There are some basic techniques that are used to hoax UFO pictures. Overlays, paste-up, small models, optical technology, electronic technology. In fact, the library is full of techniques on special effects.
Many videotape images appear genuine, but careful analysis and scrutiny often prove otherwise. This tape received by sightings was analyzed by Dilettoso.
This is a good example of a very well done, well executed hoax of a UFO. You'll notice here on the edges that the edge here, this edge, this one are all the same number of pixels. When they are very similar, as they are in this picture, it indicates that it's a small object close to the camera. Now in the story, this is a model. First of all, they're all potential hoaxes to begin with. So if the picture looks too good, it probably was staged. Now that cameras are in the hands of the general public and most everyone has one, we are finding that there is an increase in the availability of videos of UFOs. You can't just say, oh, this is a hoax. As a scientist, it's your obligation to finish the question and the answer. If it is a hoax, how did they do it?
So when I first got into this, I used to think that there was considerable hoaxing. But over the years, I've discovered that there's a whole lot less hoaxing than we assume, and that the situation is probably reversed. Maybe 20% are deliberate hoaxes perpetrated by somebody for some purpose of his own, and maybe 30% are misperception. And that seems to be real unknown.
We have to thank the people that do hoaxes because they help us understand the other side too, and what purposes there may be in real UFOs coming in. It's a tremendous mystery we're trying to solve.
Welcome to Sightings Black and White. After many years of reviewing home videos of UFOs, it takes a lot to impress the scientists investigators. But what you're about to see is one of the most intriguing UFO videos we've ever broadcast. The brilliant Christian craft comes over Salida, Colorado for more than an hour. Tim Edwards has spent most of his life in Salida, Colorado. He runs the cafe his dad started 20 years ago. Tim served his whole life by fireballs, mutilated cattle, and UFO sightings in the valley. And what happened again? And then he did. On the morning of August 27, 1995, Tim recorded this videotape.
Approximately 9:30, my daughter came out here, and she had said that she looked up in the sky to see if it was going to rain that day. I look up again, and I see
a very intense, bright, shimmering white light. At times it appears to be a boomerang shape or a slight arc.
Tim Corey's response to see if anyone else excited you to UFO. Mike Marshall, take a look.
Come out here, right here. Look beyond the door, and I see a little flashes come up with like boomerang and bright light.
Then a fourth witness, Tim's 15-year-old daughter, Lorraine, saw the UFO.
At first, it looked kind of crazy. It's like, what's wrong? And then when it started to run, it's like,
Michael Curtis is Ufos chief investigator in Colorado. He's been researching UFO activity in the San Luis Valley for several years.
Mr. Edwards, video is some of the best footage that I've seen. Purely for the fact, number one, it's a daylight sighting. There are multiple witnesses. It's a very large object, or appears to be a very large object, and we just don't get that many incredible good daylight sightings.
Sightings asked Jim Peterson to study the information. Peterson is an aerospace engineer specializing in computer enhancement and stabilization.
When you look at moving video, you're actually seeing 30 frames per second. Looking on the screen very quickly, and that's what we got right here. What you're seeing here is the edge, but each frame has a stabilizer by hand in order to put this object in the center of the screen. So after you stabilize the image, you can see it's motion much longer. Based on what I know of atmospheric flight, it does look like eight-dimensional aircraft.
It could be otherworldly technology. Yes, it could be military aircraft. It could be some unexplained weather phenomenon. That's also possible. There's an awful lot of strange things that occur in the mysterious valley of Colorado, and this is racking up to be one of them.
The military has the answers. They're not telling you. The lack of information is particularly disturbing to Tim Edwards, who has witnessed the station of only the best footage of one of the area's many UFOs.
I've been obsessed almost my family thing with trying to get the information, the facts of this case and the truth, and getting this out to the public and bringing witnesses forward.
One thing that sustains Tim Edwards and UFO researchers in the valley is the knowledge that UFO activity here is not just a cosmic flash in the pan. The local paper records sightings today, just as it did more than 80 years ago. Back then, eyewitnesses asked one simple question, and it's the same question people are still asking.
And as a result of that, I was in charge of aerial phenomena, you might say. So all aerial phenomena came through the A2, which was the Air Force representative, and the G2, which was the Army representative, myself. One day, we received the twitch from higher headquarters, which was called the 3rd Army Headquarters. Came down to division, and actually Corps first, then division, then to us in the Air Force. And it was an emergency cable or twitch which simply stated that an unidentified flying object had landed, soft landed in Los Angeles, Mexico. The first initial twitch indicated that they had it under observation and were going to watch it for 24 hours. Hopefully there would be some type of life aboard and they could communicate with it and get on with the possible acceptance or rejection of the craft itself. What happened, however, after 24 hours, there was no sign of life. So we would assume that either the ship was vacant or that the persons who were aboard were all dead. That later proved to be quite accurate and true. Now, after it was assumed that the ETs who were aboard were dead, they then decided they might find a way to get into the craft itself. Now, what happened was that the exterior of the craft signified no way to get into the craft at all. So somebody had the bright idea of probing with a long pole, which we did, and they did. And lo and behold, they did hit a button and down came a interior door, like a trap door. And there was access, of course, into the craft itself. At that point, of course, the boarding party was ventured inside the craft, and they found 5 bodies. Those bodies were diminutive in nature. They were basically humanoid. was evident to the extraterrestrials of the Confederation that all governments are a manifestation of a material power. Indeed, they immediately imposed strict secrecy about the meetings. They threatened people, including their own employees, in order to enforce the secrecy. At the peak of the dark age, the keepers started to contact private citizens, scientists, and artists. They also delivered messages and warnings to them, which were supposed to slowly sink into the consciousness of mankind. The Brothers of Space, as well as the Ashtar Commando, the Santina, and the Pleiadians belong to the Galactic Confederation. They are spiritually ascended planetary races, and they know the cosmic plan of the spiritual hierarchy. Hence, their task is to protect the evolution and development of planets of lower dimensions from global destruction. They are only officially permitted to land if mankind asks for help and is consciously aware of the meaning of its own existence. They are allowed to intervene. The whole planet is faced with global destruction because of unconscious influence, or if large natural disasters threaten the survival of human race.
My first real exciting experience back in Highbridge, New Jersey in 1956, USA, was when they crashed them in and beautiful angelic beings came out. They reminded me of angels. In fact, they reminded me of my wife. They came out and they gave me a message of love and peace and compassion, that we should change our consciousness, raise it on this earth through love and compassion. Stop killing each other in the name of all these gods. Be good to each other. I listened and I felt very, very good. I asked where they were from. They said they had come from the vicinity of the planet of Venus. They were golden-haired people with gold eyes, light blue, and between 5, 6, and 6 feet tall. And the message, they said, was given to us, to the people of Earth, in many Bibles. Many Bibles. It's in our scriptures. They came here thousands of years ago. And all our Bibles have their message in of peace and harmony, but we do not listen. This is the problem. We don't listen to what Moses told us, what Allah told us, what Jesus told us. We do not listen. If we would follow the rules and do what the scriptures say, there would be peace and harmony on this planet.
The Galactic Confederation has developed a galactic rescue plan since our governments refuse to take notice of their positive suggestions, such as disarmament and environmental protection. In the emergency case of a global destruction by an atomic holocaust or of a violent magnetic pole, millions of people will be evacuated in spaceships. During such action, over 10 million flying saucers will be sent out from the motherships, and people who are not afraid will be pulled on board through meditation needs. The spiritual people knew that at the beginning of the atomic age, mankind had arrived at the peak of the dark age. The climax of the separation had been reached. The new plan for mankind is the ascension and resurrection of mankind. The awakening and overcoming of the separation to replace Earth consciousness. Worldwide, spiritual transmediums were selected to receive these messages through telepathy or precipitation transmission in order for these mediums to spread the message of the ascension and of the new age worldwide.
The Canadians have always worked through me and around me as presence. I do not have what most people would call physical contact. I've never really seen ships, even though in 1981 when I was living in Taos, New Mexico, I awoke from a sleep state in complete panic because there were 3 blue extraterrestrials in my bedroom hovering, putting their hands above my bed. So I had that contact in 1981 and I never forgot it. I really was a dream that I always knew it wasn't a dream. And the beings were small and it was really bright blue and kind of almond-eyed. And when I began channeling the Canadians, I remembered that event in 1981. And I knew that extraterrestrials, that other life forms were real. And that's what gave me the courage, the belief to allow these beings who said they were ladies to speak through me. During the course of our friendship and a sharing of my body, they taught me so many things. And what I'm wanting to share with you today is that the search for extraterrestrials that people are impulsed to follow is a search that's very complex. It's not necessarily spaceships appearing in the skies or beings landing or showing up in a bedroom. What I'm discovering is that the merging with the God's returning to Eden has to do with an infusion of our consciousness, understanding that other forms of intelligence can blend their consciousness with ours. We can learn to blend ours with theirs, and we come into a whole new level of operating on the planet. The basic message that the Canadians that live through me offer is that thought creates reality. They really come to the future, and they have learned how to penetrate what they call quarters of time, and different levels of time, and they've come into our reality to teach us about something that we need to change, that we need to implant within our basic values of life. And this is what they've given me, the gift that they've given me of restructuring or revaluing of who I am. It's not been easy, definitely. I've changed so much that sometimes it's very difficult for me to relate to people and the ideas that they have not questioned over the years. The ideas that are instilled with us from the time we're children based on fear, our religious institutions, our educational systems. They never teach us to honor and love ourselves and to understand the mystery of the body first, and understand that the mystery of the body and the mind ends up reflecting itself and creating itself in the outside world. Part of my instruction at this time has been to speak openly so that others don't feel that they're going crazy, so that others can understand that there is this infusion of planetary intelligence coming to merge with our consciousness. Many of these beings have no idea how to make contact with us because we've been so programmed to fear and programmed to interpret what we don't understand as something that would be bad. And unfortunately, we've been lost in this paradigm of thought that we are the most intelligent species that exists. And I believe that we're one of millions or billions, and that the earth is now being reopened. The doorways that will connect us to other forms of life are gently, and sometimes more than gently, sometimes with great collision. These avenues of light, these avenues of thought are being opened so that we can change. I feel that I'm an example for what's going to happen to much of the population.
The Confederation
information is sorted to a much more extensive assisting scheme. After consultation with the spiritual hierarchies and the cosmic intelligences known as archangels, a common plan was developed with the Archangel Michael to send his legions of light workers to incarnate on Earth. Voluntary extraterrestrials of all planetary hierarchies within our Milky Way helped heal the Earth with a release of a new consciousness on the planet, leading us back to expand the awareness of the planetary Christ or Buddhi consciousness. First, ascended masters who once left Atlantis decided to incarnate again, as well as countless volunteers of higher planetary hierarchies to begin the return of the White Brotherhood on Earth. An old Bible prophecy tells of the last battle on Earth, where the Archangel Michael leads his legions into the battle against the unconscious. In 1960, the first voluntaries began to incarnate on Earth with the help of the spiritual world, in order to prepare for the coming of the legions. The legions would incarnate from about 1970 onwards, if the vibration of the planet was slightly raised in order to change the world from within.
The role of the light workers in this transition on the planet Earth is quite varied. We all have unique and individual roles. Basically, I think we've come to understand that the new millennium, the golden age, isn't going to occur through some angelic force stepping down from heaven, waving a magic wand and transforming the planet. This change will come about through a shift in conscious awareness, through a change in our own individual perception, and many of us are now working to bring this change into fruition. The main commitment that we have now is to simply allow our being to be so perfectly in tune with divine will, with the higher energies, that we are in fact just vessels like the Holy Grail, whose energies that flow through and manifest upon this plane. So in other words, I guess all changes come from cleaning up your own backyard and through simply allowing the inner light to really shine forward and trigger that inner light within the hearts of all.
Each of the millions of extraterrestrial volunteers he was born with is a specialist in the most diverse areas of science and in the art of living. At a definite point in time, the awakening call went out into the subconscious of these beings, who are the unconscious carriers of higher knowledge and vibrations. Healers, therapists, scientists who know about the concept of free energy, light works, living quantum accelerators are cleaning the earth. They are the teachers who spread the love of life, art, and meditation. They are spiritual teachers, warriors for suppressed truth. All of them, consciously or unconsciously, introduce a new age and raise the frequency of the planet. Many of these people have always felt that a part of them is different.
At the time, I had never heard of or read about UFO, and I had an experience on a ski holiday at the Tarpon Lake in Salzburg. I used to pray a lot for people who were about to die, and I comforted people who had a calling in this life. In the evening, I went to bed and I prayed. I cannot even say how this sort of thing happens. Then there were 6 round flying objects, and out of each of these round flying objects shone a beam of light. In that moment, the beam of light intensified, and I was afraid. My fear was so strong that I was paralyzed, but at the same time, I also felt bliss. Then the beam hit my head, through the eyes and the forehead, and it felt like my head was bursting. And again I had a strong pain and a feeling of peace. And a spiritual realization, that is, a real transmission, a communication, an understanding, we are energy. And if you hold as much energy as we do, we will come and take you from the earth. There is only one possibility, love. I always sleep naked in bed, if you do not mind me saying so. Temperature was -15 degrees. I went outside onto the balcony, and I was pulled up into the starry sky. I did not feel the cold, nothing. My husband pulled me back into the room. For 3 days I was supposed to sleep, but I was like paralyzed, like totally absent. I could not think, see, wish for, want anything else but this message which I had been given. And as I said, at the time, I had been delayed to have anything about UFOs. Later, when I had moved to Florida, I had a further experience. Again, it was before midnight. Something pulled me out of my body. I really saw how a force pulled me out of my body, and then it floated me wrong. That is the name of my husband. Together we have decided to further realize ourselves in the Christ consciousness, in His love and in His wisdom, and that is why I was allowed to remain here. Indeed, I had the feeling that I had already been taken away at the time.
Knowledge of the secret sciences you return to know. The ancient knowledge of crystals, colors and sounds, herbs and flower essences, as well as electromagnetism will return. This knowledge will only be a temporary concept until human beings achieve their full completion. Different seeds of stars choose a much more difficult task, since Atlantis may have incarnated many times under this century. There were students of the light masters from Atlantis and descending extraterrestrials. These souls were magicians, witches, healers, high priests, and the initiated of many centuries. They descended long ago to be a light for mankind on their path of darkness. They were often persecuted, killed, silenced, and laughed at because of their knowledge of the higher truth. They swam like fish against the currents of humanity.
You are a member of a Rosicrucian secret society. Yes, it is the Rosicrucian Order, or Amor. It is the only official and true one. It was founded 3,500 years ago here in Egypt. It is the Rosicrucian Order. The teachings are of Hermes Trismegistus. The entire spiritual line, let's say, is laid in order to find the path to God. Everyone has to find his path. These teachings are pure and real, and they are constantly updated, scientifically, and let's say also on a spiritual level.
One of the people.
Do you see a relationship between the contact to extraterrestrials and your religious coalition? Not directly. I think that if all human beings have a straight path to God, all this will fall into place. I do not think that human beings can determine it themselves. Somehow, they are chosen. Could it be that the extraterrestrials are observing certain people or souls here on this planet, and that they are then chosen as messengers or contact people in order to bring the message to the world? Yes, they have confirmed this to me. They are observing, then they choose people and give them instructions.
Even during this century, great thinkers using holistic techniques, such as Nikola Tesla, Wilhelm Reich, Victor Schauberger, and many others have been persecuted and silenced by the Projects because of their inventions using free energy. The first group of these seeds of stars were moving many times during their battle to slowly raise mankind out of its spiritual darkness. The first seeds were of great help during the first phase of ascension, bringing breakthroughs to the thinking of humanity. They were the geniuses of this century.
Well, yes, the technical information that was given to me in early life is coming out now, and they said it would come out over the years as time went by. And I'm working on a portable AC/DC power pack, which would be good for all the people. I have plenty of electricity, no problems. and also a large one for a home, 15,000 watt power pack, which would power a home, air conditioning, and everything. Also an electric car. We're working on that, and we expect to see some engineers in the near future, which will carry a car from one point to another, 3,000 miles without a recharge. Most cars nowadays only have 100 miles. And we plan to put it in a Chrysler or similar minivan for a family to go from one point to another. And also, my favorite goal is to build a 40-foot electrocraft, electrodynamic propulsion. No gasoline and no jet fuel. But the people who give us the electric, the fuel and the gasoline and oil won't lose anything, because it will take even more jobs to create this craft, the parts that are needed on this craft. And people would even get richer. The oil men would even get richer with this product. So there's no problem there of destroying what is already here. We're just going into something which is better and will not pollute the earth. There's no pollution. In not too long a time, they will come down and they will see us all. And we're expecting that. But we have to raise our consciousness to the point where they are not coming down and talking to savages. They want to talk to good people that don't kill each other. Then they will come down and we can join them in peace and harmony.
Today, more than coming for the last time to accompany mankind on its last phase of ascension. They were prepared for this time during many previous lifetimes in order to help all people to become masters themselves. The time has come for you to wake up to the fact that you, by your own choice, will serve mankind. Millions of beings have unconditional love. Thus they will raise vibrations seen by the present, so that the purification process will start. And spiritually, no stone will be left unturned.
What I share with you today, maybe it plants some idea inside of you, maybe it registers someplace with something that you already know, that your impulse to awaken in yourself, and maybe you're afraid, maybe you don't understand it, maybe you're concerned that you'll change too much. I believe in change, and I believe that the survival of the species and the transformation of the planet involves tremendous change. The message that the Pleiadians give is one of understanding the isolation that the human species has been locked within. They call the present version of the human species modern man, saying that basically we spring from an experiment that began about 500,000 years ago, and that the gods that created us are extraterrestrial beings who in reality it's about their own gods, and these extraterrestrial beings are going through their own process of change at this time, and because they created us, because we're a part of how they learn, we're involved and they're involved in this time of coming together. What the Pleiadians have taught me is that this coming together, this collapsing of time, this merging of consciousness that's taking place between all species on the Earth plane has to do with something that is going to create, let me see how I can put it, a new geometric thought form, a new geometry of being that's literally going to move through our universe and change the entire course of our universe. They have told me and told the people that they speak to that the human species genetically has very different organizational structure than we've been led to believe. They said that the evolving human, the human that will emerge on this planet, will have 12 strands of genetic material, and these 12 strands of DNA will activate within the human full brain capacity. This is something that is quite a lot to consider. And yet I can say in the last few years of working with these energies that the process has begun to take place inside of me. I've changed. I have abilities that I did not have before. I have understandings that I never had before. And I have assistance that's based on non-physical presence that I know is always with me. And I feel the message I'm going to share with you is that these beings are around all of us. And if you relax, and if you consider who you are, you can open to this very wonderful relationship. It's really a relationship with another form of yourself.
Only a few of these people with a higher understanding are conscious of where their soul originates from. When entering space and time, they lose their consciousness. By increasing the level of vibration, they will all remember their true identity. While it awakes.
Welcome to Psychic. I'm Tim White. After many years of reviewing home video of supposed UFOs, it takes a lot to impress the Psychics investigators here. But what we're about to see is one of the most intriguing UFO footage we've ever broadcast. The brilliant disc-shaped craft hovered over Salida, Colorado for more than an hour.
Tim Edwards has spent most of his life in Salida, Colorado. He was at Cafe, his dad started 20 years ago. Tim spent his whole life on fireballs, mutilated cattle, and UFO sightings in the valley. It happened to him, but then it did. On the morning of August 27, 1995, Tim recorded. In January 1996, watching Across this part of South America is the international spotlight. Incredibly, over a dozen witnesses claim to have seen strange lights in the sky of alien creatures running loose in the area. Was this man's first significant contact with an alien race? Or was it a case of people misidentifying terrestrial events? I travelled to Brazil to see for myself. This is the story I was told. On the 20th of January 1996, an unidentified object reached the area behind me. Over the next few days, alien creatures were captured alive by the Brazilian authorities. Within hours of the first capture, a total media blackout was imposed. And despite scores of military and emergency personnel and over a dozen witnesses seeing both the craft and the bodies, the Brazilian government refused to admit that anything of an extraterrestrial nature took place here. As incredible as it sounds, that's the story many people here believe. Could the Virginia incident be the most significant close encounter ever? Mass hysteria and even pure fantasy. I've received reports from military witnesses who say that they were part of a military unit sent to capture alien creatures.
People who claim to be witnesses give accounts of creatures being taken to the local hospital and details of the autopsy performed. And I talked to the frightened locals who say they saw a craft crashing into their town.
It's just unbelievably undeniable. Undeniable. It doesn't matter what the military say, they are hiding. They are hiding. They do have captured agents in the so hiding. The creature was about 177 years long. It was a big V-shaped head. It had dark brown skin. It was oily. Big head. Bigger than ours. Differences are these creatures from another planet were captured, taken by the Army, and examined biologically. The method I use when investigating UFO cases is that after assessing all the evidence and delivering the pros and cons.
Very careful. The possibility that we are dealing with a series of events which have been, as it were, linked together, perhaps by people who are very keen to come to education, and that we're dealing perhaps with nothing more exciting than a series of misidentification and people putting perhaps quite extraordinary explanations on things which may be rather mundane.
I think this is going to be a very important situation where we need to get through that the aliens have visited our planet.
It's hard to imagine a more unlikely setting for what would be mankind's greatest contact with an alien race. Brasília is a small industrial city of 120,000 people in south central Brazil. This is a news broke of the alleged sighting and capture of alien creatures. An army of UFO researchers, international TV crews and press ascended on the area to cover, if it's true, the most astonishing close encounter that the world ever heard about. By the time we arrived in Brasília to meet the researchers and the witnesses, industry and intrigue were at an all-time high.
Because everybody was on the street, because many UFOs were sighted at that time, so people were just connecting one thing to another.
The city was in a panic. Someone said that the military policeman had died under strange circumstances after allegedly handling one of the aliens. Some people even said that healthy animals at the local zoo had mysteriously died overnight. Dozens of people have reported UFO sightings. Brasília was in the grip of an alien frenzy.
What we can say from the evidence, the maximum we can say, is that there is not the slightest bit of doubt that everything did happen. We say this not only because we have heard from people from the town who were indirectly involved, but the people who participated in the principal events.
Some of the UFO believers claim that
on the night of Friday the 19th of January, a US flight satellite detected an unidentified object entering the Earth's atmosphere. The North American radar defense system showing its mountain on NORAD alleged that it didn't cover the object was heading towards Brasília. Immediately, the military authorities faced a dreadful sight from alert.
it was a night of frenzied military activity behind the scenes.
but they are very interested in being part of this because we know if they can put their hands in the racket or hands into one of these churches, many things can be developed. So yes, we understand that you're involved with their next. Looking for re-entry of American satellites or Russian satellites or flying saucers. So they were always coming in, what's the way some people what's looking wrong with the American government. So they don't have a lot of slack on their so there's a larger one subject wasn't one about it wasn't last year with and object like like a flame, carrying that sparkle, and they did see a strange cross in the sky that night. Eureka and already the freighters, so it was thinking was a UFO right past their farmhouse, and yet 5 feet off the ground, and then now, January 20th, it appeared to be some sort of tracking. We were sleeping, but my wife could not sleep. So we heard the noise of the house becoming startled. That's what got our attention. My wife went to the window and called me over.
It was around 1 o'clock in the morning, and we saw an object flying over with a lot of smoke coming from it. So I called my husband over, and we both looked at it.
I started to ask, what was it? The flying kind of stuff flying over. It was long, and I heard obviously like there was inside behind it, like many had ribbons to a fan. It was the size of a minibus with lights and smoke. They were like colors, almost transparent. I have never seen anything like it in my life. The most astonishing part of the story was about to unfold. The sensational story of an alleged close encounter in Brazil was even stranger. One of the anonymous sources I spoke to claimed that at approximately 7 a.m. on Saturday the 20th, the local fire brigade here received an anonymous phone call which reported that a strange creature was seen running loose on the outskirts of Virginia. Further claimed that the firemen drove the short distance to where the creature was reported, about 5 minutes away. But curiously, when they arrived at the location in Charlie Andrew to capture the creature, the contingent familiar by military base, ETA, was already there. They both had surprises to each other. The people in the fire department and the people in the army. Well, they agreed to go into cooperation and capture the creature. At about 2:30 in the morning, according to my source, the firemen located the creature cowering in the tall grass. They were expecting to find a wild cat or dog, but they say they found would change life in Virginia forever. Everyone had heard the stories about crashed spacecraft and alien creatures. The town was abuzz with rumors. The creature offered no resistance at all to its capture. It almost couldn't move. It was so fragile. It was so suffering. The fire brigade people told me one of them that the creature didn't show any reaction. It was quite easy to capture. He thought that it was healed somehow. It was feeling bad somehow because it didn't move.
incident actually happened. Was the creature netted alive by the authorities who driven off? There were 11 people claimed to be eyewitnesses and told me it did. One, a local lawyer, witnessed the military activity in his house nearby. He agreed to make a statement, providing his identity wasn't disclosed.
After the soldiers had entered the woods, I heard 3 gunshots. And then I thought to myself, they killed someone down there. Some few minutes later, they came up from the woods. One of the soldiers was carrying a sack, where as far as I could make out, something was moving inside. At the time I thought it was an animal or something like that, because something was definitely moving inside that sack. People make mistakes. People misidentify things, particularly if they see them under unusual conditions. So always, I would say, will be good for the vague explanation first. Look for the misidentification of some sort of military exercise.
By early afternoon, according to reports from witnesses, the live allegedly alien creature has been brought to the military academy known as ESA here in Trent-Courtois, a high-security training base. I asked to interview the senior officer. After waiting for several hours, a major of the base agreed to give me this exclusive interview to set the record straight once and for all on the incident. If some of the descriptions by the witnesses seem a little outlandish, the official military version is bizarre in the extreme.
The appearance of an extraterrestrial did not take place because it has never been officially proven. What happened was that on the 20th of January 1996, there were violent storms in Virginia. We were having a ceremony. We also had to send some trucks for maintenance while they were still under guarantee. So we sent 2 trucks into Virginia for this to happen. To further complicate the story, there were more coincidences relating to the event. At the hospital in Virginia, there was an expected heart problem. Which coincided with Ezra taking the creature in a truck to the hospital in Virginia. There must be a confusion between this and the one couple who were expecting a baby.
Violent storms and broken down trucks. Surprised by the official military version of events, I returned to the fire brigade in Virginia and asked to speak to the men who allegedly captured the creature on the morning of January the 20th.
One simple day that the fire brigade captured an alien on the train.
I think that the fire brigade had countless possible beings from another planet were expected to be captured by 60 Death Firemen. Everyone here, including the commander, doesn't believe it because we never saw it.
The fire brigade here in Virginia denied that they captured any aliens on January the 20th. But then they say it was just another routine day. But when I asked them to tell us what they did on this routine day, they told me it was classified.
Hardly surprising, since most military activity is indeed classified. By early afternoon, in the intense heat of the day, the streets
were once again deserted. And then this incredible story might well have ended, were it not for three local girls. At around 4 p.m. that afternoon, Katia, Lillian and Valkyra took a shortcut home from work. Say they spotted a creature identical to the one allegedly captured by the military that morning. It was cowering by a wall.
It was around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were coming home from work. We took a shortcut through Jardine André on our way to Santana, where we live. We saw this very strange creature, but it didn't notice us at all at first. It kept his strange, and then it saw us.
I asked the girls to describe what this creature looked like. With the help of an artist, we built up a detailed sketch.
And its skin was very soft. The sun was shining on it, and it looked like the outside of a heart. The eyes were big, round, and red, and there were 3 horns on its head, and visible veins on its arms. When it looked at us, it seemed as though it was suffering, anxious, as if it was in some kind of pain. It was more when my eyes made direct contact with its eyes, and I could just sense that it was suffering. There was just something about it. Katia and Lillian ran off, but I froze. They came back and grabbed me, and we all ran away.
So they went home, and they told them about it. Mommy, we just had the devil. Young one said, the mother is a very brave woman. She said, no devil is going to play with my gift. And she managed to get the location just to see how the train was all in air. And no, nothing wrong with the creature wasn't there anymore. And what happened is that the rumors were spread that the kid saw the devil. Clearly there was something strange there. But there are a large number of strange wild animals in Brazil, and some of them are certainly not creatures with which Western researchers are familiar. It's a large country, and there are all sorts of unusual animals there that may cause someone to say, my goodness, what's that? There's no animal you could be sort of moving with what the world is called. It's just impossible. Not like Virginia. Virginia is a place where you have many industries. It's a very civilized place. You don't find wild animals just walking around the streets. It's impossible. And not that I do not think that any of our principal witnesses are alive. Not the civilians or the military. The statements are concrete, and I believe in the sincerity of all of them. Most of it, as I mentioned, we had violent storms that day. In Virginia, not a mentally handicapped man, or a strange, disfigured appearance. And the consequence of these storms had he had hurt himself while trying to take cover or get home. And when this happened, he was near the area where these girls said they saw this strange creature. But if we were to look at what they saw again, they could have confused this dwarf man with something else. This figured physical appearance and that's it. By nighttime, Virginia and the surrounding areas were alight with aliens, UFOs, and military cover-ups. And even so, no one could have predicted what something would say happened next. Okay, PLC doesn't really think that aliens are going to invade us, okay? Do you feel better now, you big baby? PLC's alien The story of the supposed
supposed alien capture in Brazil gets even stranger. I was told by an anonymous military witness
It was on this road at around 10 p.m. on Saturday where the military patrol saw another creature lying injured on the roadside. And like the one earlier on, they decided to capture him. With little resistance, they put it in a net and then drove it a few miles back into Nigeria and took it to the local hospital.
Researcher Vittorio Paccaccini secured an interview with a military witness who claimed to have been involved in the capture of this live alien. This is what he told us.
On January 22nd, 1996, Monday, a military convoy with 3 trucks left and headed towards Rashid. In charge of the operations were 2 ex-2 Brazilian Army intelligence lieutenants. They're secret officers. Most of the Army people don't even know who they are. On the road outside Virginia, we saw a strange creature crouched by the side of the road, so we stopped. When we realized what it was, everybody was shocked. But we were ordered to put it in the back of the truck and drive it to the hospital. I remember everyone being terrified.
They just got so surprised because they never thought all they knew about alien beings was from TV. And in TV, you can see many different shapes, many different kinds. They never thought an alien being could be like that. They were really astonished, and they were afraid of getting some disease from it.
According to the anonymous officer, the creature was driven off in an ambulance to the local hospital. And was dead on arrival.
There were a lot of doctors, over 15 of them, all wearing surgical masks. Some had stethoscopes around their necks. There were military policemen, firemen. One of the F2 lieutenants was filming everything with the portable camera, while the other one was taking One of the doctors came over and opened that little slit of a mouth, grabbed its tongue and rolled it out using forceps. Long, flappy, flat tongue, about 12 centimeters long. When the doctor released it, it went straight back into that little There was an unbearable smell of ammonia. The creature was about 160 centimeters long, with big V-shaped teeth. It had dark brown skin, which was oily. Bigger now, with some kind of protuberances on the top of it. I didn't have a nose, just 2 holes. It just had a slit of a mouth and big round eyes with no pupils at all. Its legs were short and skinny, yet long, thin arms.
After hours of examination at the hospital, the anonymous military witness said that the creature was then taken by road under tight security to the ESA base at Tres Corazones. The dead creature remained under guard at the army facility until very early the following morning, Tuesday, the 23rd of January. Under the watchful eye of Lieutenant Colonel Olympio Wanderley, the source says that the alleged alien was then transported to its final destination.
The next morning, at about 300 hours, a well-armed convoy under the command of Sergeant Pedrosa, an intelligence officer, took this creature to a military facility in Campinas, where they delivered it to Captain Ramirez, an officer from ESA, who was already
they waiting for the gunpoint? At the military facility, they then transferred the creature to the Unicamp University in St. Joe. Behind the unassuming exterior, there are in fact 2 restricted access laboratories in the basement of the university.
And why these creatures were taken there? Because in the intercept of bombs, there is a big team of forensic doctors, one of the finest in the country. And they are headed by Dr. Madan Padari, who is regarded one of the top forensic doctors, pathologists, and the country.
I contacted Dr. Palhares at the medical facility. He declined to go on camera and give us an interview, but he did telephone us later to give us this statement.
I am not and have not actively and personally participated throughout official in urging intervention. I have never been involved with any member of the National Security Service or the Army in dealing with the issues relating to the ETs of the Virginia case.
According to the editor of the UFO magazine, several months after the incident, a student asked him whether he had been involved.
Nobody was why. Well, my young man, I really would love to keep your answer. Ask this question again in 10 or 15 years from now.
Unconfirmed reports say that after several weeks of testing at the high-security laboratories, the creatures were flown to the United States in an unmarked transport plane. With the town of Virginia buzzing with rumors of flying saucers and alien creatures, this bizarre story took a tragic turn. Shortly after the alleged incident, one of the soldiers who allegedly came into contact with the creature died. He was Marco Eli Shirazi, a 23-year-old plainclothes military police agent at the army base. His sister Martha is convinced that he was contaminated by the creature and he died only weeks after the alleged incident.
He was involved completely with the police operation from start to finish and accompanied the creature from where it was captured to the Humanitas hospital. He didn't get home till very late that night. When he actually captured the creature, he could have directly touched it, and this links with some reports I had that he could have been contaminated to the skin, not necessarily through a cut or infection. So because of this, there was a capture, and my brother did capture the creature, because there was originally nothing wrong with him.
The doctor said no autopsy was necessary. Blood test results were available, however, and indicated that Marco's blood contained 8% unknown toxic substances.
The doctor told the family to bury the body immediately, no funeral. The family didn't understand why, but followed the doctor's orders. Now they're suing militarized states because they want to exhume Marco Michel's body. But I understand that this, whatever happens, because the militaries are involved with the national security subject, and the judge won't let the family do
In the media spotlight and under intense public pressure to make a statement about the incident, the military held their own press conference, at which General Lima, commander of ESA, publicly denied the Army's involvement.
I
think it's a huge scandal. We've captured aliens that the population won't have the right to know about.
Military, if they were conducting some sort of night manoeuvres, are not necessarily going to suddenly start telling people what they were doing. And they're not suddenly going to explain themselves to UFO researchers who've been asked on our questions. That's simply not the way the military works.
I tried to talk to General Lima, but the Brazilian military said they were unable to contact him. And just when everyone thought the so-called Brazilian Roswell was over, reports emerged of yet another alleged alien encounter. Several months later, the elderly lady, Mrs. Klepp, says she saw a creature while attending a party at the local zoo. According to reports, she was so shocked she was unable to move for several minutes.
I went outside to have a cigarette onto the balcony, and I saw something really ugly. It was dark brown and had big, bulging red eyes. It was really ugly. I'm sure it wasn't an animal. It's a coincidence that around the same time as the sighting of this creature, we were having problems. And there were actually some animals that had died since February. I lost 5 animals, but we do not know why. There was no scientific explanation, and nothing came to light in any post-mortem examination. This is very strange. I have been director at this zoo for 7 years, and there has never been anything like this.
Just what happened in Virginia on the weekend of January the 20th, 1996 remains shrouded in mystery. On the one hand, we have locals who say they saw UFOs, crashed saucers, and alien bodies captured by the military. On the other, we have total denial on the part of the military and the authorities, citing hysterical locals and a total lack of physical, written, or video evidence. Some people wonder if the real truth to the so-called Brazilian Roswell still lurks somewhere inside this zoo. The creature that Mrs. Klepp says she saw has never been captured.
I want to know what happened to these creatures. I think the whole world wants to know if these creatures are still individuals and definitely what happened to them.
We believe that if this case is definitely proved to be true, then it is as important, if not more important, than the case of Roswell. If encounters with alien creatures in Brazil seem unsettling, even more bizarre reports have been emerging from the Caribbean island of Puerto Rico. Set deep in the hills of Puerto Rico, the Arecibo Space Observatory has been attempting communication with deep space for the past 30 years. Rather alarmingly, we not only have received a reply, but a personal visit. In the last 2 years, people say Puerto Rico has been terrorized by a creature known locally as a chupacabra, or the joke sucker, so called because it drains the blood out of its victims. We've obtained the only known footage of what is believed to be a chupacabra. Some biologists say it's just the carcass of a wild cat.
This one, so it was like a 3 feet tall, skinny legs, white wings. It wasn't like a bird. It wasn't normal. It was like birds fly away, but this was really fast. Wow. It was something unusual, not normal.
Just what the chupacabras are remains a mystery. Some people believe they are the products of covert genetic experiments which have escaped from US military bases on the island. Others are convinced that they are alien creatures from another planet. The Puerto Rican authorities say it's just wild dogs.
The face was very small. 2 holes were in the noses and with a mouth you could hardly see.
The eyes were like 2 drops of water, but red.
I looked and saw 2 creatures with neon green eyes turned red when they looked at me. And I suddenly felt the current and couldn't move. I don't know whether it was just fear or it was them transmitting something. It was gray, about 3 to 4 feet tall, and had red eyes and a fin on its back. It was floating outside the window, grabbing Roderick's hand. When we rushed in, it fled.
Jorge Martin is well known on this small island. He's been researching the chupacabra phenomenon for over 2 years.
They walk on 2 legs, direct, and they have this strange spines or bones or whatever that goes from the back of their heads down to the lower back. And they start changing colors, vibrating very fast, they illuminate themselves, and they start doing very faint humming sounds. And somehow these things will tell these creatures to fly away. I think these chupacabras are alien in origin. At first I used to think that maybe it was some type of genetic manipulation, some experiment that had been done here in Puerto Rico. And eventually escaped to the environment and no one would take any responsibility for it. But then, as we started getting more and more reports from serious reliable witnesses from all over Puerto Rico, and with this creature were being observed together with UFO, with alien human beings, and they levitated into this craft, etc. I had to change my mind.
One witness, Mr. Jesus Sanchez, says he did manage to get close enough to one to strike it with his machete after it attacked his rabbit. He's convinced it's no ordinary animal.
I heard a noise, so I came up to see what it was. When I came out, the creature attached me, so I hit it with the machete twice. It made a hollow sounding noise like a drum. After that, it ran off.
He says that when he returned to his rabbits, they were all dead, with blood drained from their bodies.
The marks are quite incredible. No one human would leave those kind of marks. Not even a doctor would leave the kind of marks that the creature left. They had holes through the neck, here to the veins. Like in an operation, no one could do that around here.
I asked Mr. Sanchez to identify the creature he saw that night. I showed him artist impressions of a chupacabra based on other eyewitness descriptions.
This was the creature I saw. The shape of the eyes, the nails like that, and the claws on its feet. Some people in Puerto Rico say they're monkeys, but they're lying, because monkeys can't fly. They must come from another planet.
Usually what we're seeing in the necropsy findings is round, perfect ones, primarily from half a centimeter to a centimeter in diameter. They go into the base of the skull, also into the base of the jaw. We hardly ever see rigor mortis in some of them, but I would say that about 3/4 of the volume of blood from the animal is removed.
The chupacabra wanted to attack, but the serious things to do with maybe a fairly long probe, maybe 6, 8 inches. And they insert this probe in small animals such as chickens, ducks, geese, usually in the neck area.
Policeman Juan Collazo says he came face to face with a chupacabra one night.
That night I heard the car alarm go off. I thought someone was trying to steal it, so I raced down the stairs. And when I got down there was an animal fighting my dog. When I got closer, I realized that it was a chupacabra, which had been described to me before. So I stepped back a few feet and shot at it with my gun. When I shot at it, what it did was to roll itself up like a worm and rolled along the ground until it hit the wall. Then it stood up and disappeared within seconds. Unbelievably fast.
After the eyewitness report, I asked the Puerto Rican authorities to comment on these strange events. One local mayor believes that chupacabras do exist and has put his career on the line to hunt for them.
It's definitely an extraterrestrial. It's something that's never been seen before. I used to work for the police in Puerto Rico before becoming mayor and investigated many cases. But I've never come across something as strange and difficult as this. I went to many people. I went to the chief of police, but he wouldn't help me. He took it as a joke. He said that it was just some kind of wild animal. We've come to two conclusions. One is that it is a creature from another planet, and the other one is that it is an experiment from the government. In the Yonki. Those are the two conclusions.
It's very important to realise that witnesses, when they report something like this, will simply dredge something up from their own belief system, their own knowledge, and particularly their own cultural background. So what we have here, I think, is clearly an incident where something was seen. But this idea that it's necessarily something to do with UFO invaders, they only have arisen once Western UFO researchers became involved. We have thousands of very good testimonies of reliable witnesses. And we believe in the people. They have lost their lifestyle, their way of living. They deserve an answer from our government.
No, I never believed in UFOs. I believe in nothing like this. Okay, this happened. Now I believe because I saw it with my own life.
What do you think is going on there?
We're not alone. We're not alone. We are not alone in the universe. That's all.
Just what is going on here in Puerto Rico remains a mystery. If reports are to be believed, then some sort of animal is viciously attacking this island's wildlife. And in Virginia, again, according to local reports, a bizarre-looking creature was seen by a number of witnesses before being captured by the authorities. Some people claim that these events are proof of alien contact, proof that planet Earth is being terrorized by extraterrestrial creatures. And yet, there's no hard evidence or conclusive scientific data that can substantiate these claims. We might not be alone in the universe, but if these creatures are indeed alien visitors, we may wish we were.
Alien Invasion Week.
Imagine waking up on an unexpected guest in your bedroom.
Our next speaker will continue where this film ended, by expanding on the relevance of channeled information to UFO research. He has been active in Queensland UFO organizations since the late 60s. He is currently the administrator for Australia's only, and to my understanding, true national UFO organization, Ufos. His vision is to somehow make this Ufos a part of all existing UFO groups in this country now, in order to maintain, protect, and make available all the UFO research and records gathered to everyone concerned. A kind of free national UFO database, if you will. This vision is yet to be realized. How can he not have our support? Please welcome Martin Gotcha.
I think what I'm going to speak about today is really more in the field of the philosophy of UFO research. That is to say, when we step back and look at all the things we've been trying to do and ask ourselves, are we going about this in the best possible way? And we step back and say, while we've been busy accusing of the rest of the world of denying the facts and ignoring the facts and not seeing the instances and implications, do we not sometimes do the same thing ourselves? After all, we're part of the same community and we share the same shortcomings as the people whose shortcomings we see so very clearly. And so it is that in conferences and gatherings like this one, channeled material and the accounts of contactees tend not to get too much attention. I think part of the stated reason for this is it's too way out for the other side of the society that we want to attract, the scientists and the general run of the public that we want to get our messages out to. We don't dare to be that way out. But I think there's also an unspoken agenda too. It hurts to stretch the mind that far. It opens chasms and fears and uncertainties, and we are human beings as well as researchers, and the subject to our failings as well. So I hope that in addressing this topic of channeled material, I can both myself and all of us to see a little more clearly why we've taken our particular stance in UFO research and how perhaps we might improve on it. I'm not here to tell you that channeled material is true or real or accurate. That is not a thing for a UFO researcher to determine. We have our own questions to answer, as often we have. So what is channeled material? What is channeling? It's one aspect of a broader category of information, sometimes called received information, in which an individual somehow switches off their consciousness to such a degree that another consciousness allegedly is able to communicate through the communication equipment of that person, be it automatic writing or the voice faculties of that individual. That's the theory of channeling. And I'm not here to tell you that this is true or not true. It's not really quite relevant to my concern here. But I think that's a fair definition of what channeling is understood to be. A classical case is of a person who is confronted by a group of people like this one and sits down in a chair and makes a few jerky movements and a few other sounds and then appears to be in a different state of consciousness. When questions are put, the answers coming claim to be from a different consciousness than that of the person sitting there. And often I think many people accept that as being the fact that those answers are really coming from a different intelligence than the one associated with the individual whom they see. That's channeled material. I looked at channel material quite carefully about 20 or 25 years ago. As I think all of us do at one point or another, we look at everything to see what might be learned from it. And my finding about it was roughly that there is an enormous amount of material of this kind around. You can get it by the bookload. I have that much shelving of it, and I didn't even try to collect it all, I just looked at some. And some of it to me, was very profound. A small portion of the channeled material is what I would call of a high quality. The ideas are profound, the motivation of the source seems to be of a high moral order, etc. The attention to detail, the attention to truth seems to be genuine, so I would call that of a high quality. The bulk of channeled material, in my findings, tended to be recycled, that is to say, a repetition of something which you could find in print somewhere else from an earlier time. When channeled information makes predictions, those predictions are just as bad as predictions made by almost everyone else. They usually fail at the critical time. And we've had examples of this just in the last couple of years. So the ability to make predictions that are fulfilled by subsequent historical experience doesn't establish channeling as accurate or reliable to a large degree, no more so than most other forms of prediction. But typically, a channeled body of material has a well-defined worldview. It paints a clear picture. Forget for the moment if that picture is true or false, real or not, it's clear. I don't think if I were a channeler here speaking to you, I'd hold your attention for very long if I couldn't project a well-defined story of some kind, give you a clear worldview of some kind. And I want to draw on this latter feature most especially when I look at how channeled material might be applied in UFO research. Before doing so, I'd like to briefly give what I think is a good definition of what UFO research is. I think it's fair to say that most UFO researchers take the view that the UFO phenomenon is at least to some extent physically real, has a physical reality to it. Too many people have bumped into them and kicked them and been bumped by these things, either the UFO or its occupants, for that not to be a reasonable premise. That does not mean, of course, that they are only real in the sense that we understand physical reality. We're simply saying that whatever else they may be, they also can behave like physically real objects, and therefore the methods of research that have worked well for us in studying other physically real things like nature and the physical world have a relevance to UFO research. And I think in any research practice, it is very important to distinguish fact from inferences. We need both to understand a phenomenon. What we tend to do, and the thing that we always have to guard against doing, is to judge what can be fact by whether or not it agrees with what we think the world is like, our inferences. I think the early history of UFO research came up very hard against this particular problem. When UFOs displayed the physical characteristics they did, the apparent weightlessness, the tremendous changes in speed and direction at very high inferred acceleration, the first reaction of the most qualified people was, this is physically impossible, therefore that can't be a true factual statement. It doesn't fit my theory, so it can't be a fact. We're still probably up against that to a large degree, also perhaps less so than before. So as UFO researchers, we have to guard carefully against judging facts by our theories or our beliefs about what is real or true. We have to have a methodology for letting facts speak for themselves, for deciding what is a fact on the merit of the factual side of it, while our theoretical thinking is switched off for the time being. And then when we've done that, then we try to assimilate the facts into some kind of conceptual framework by a process which no longer worries about whether facts are facts or not, but accepts them for a moment as facts and says, well, what sense can I make of it? So we do this, that's why we have 2 feet, and we stand on one while
take a step with the other, then we'll put that one down, and the next one will take a step with the next one. Rather so do we do the fact gathering and the interpreting stepwise. And when we're doing one, we're not doing the other. And if we try to do the two together, we'll trip and fall. It's a bit like that with UFO research as well. So that's the kind of thing I think we all do in one way or another. And that in fact is essentially what is called the scientific method, or shall we put it the other way around. As science became established and grew, scientists adopted this method, which existed before science ever had a name, as a good way of studying the natural world. And I don't think there's any argument to that. That usually the method, it works quite well if we do it the right way. Okay, well that's UFO research as I understand it. And now I can address the question of what can we do, or what can we use channel material for in furthering our attempts to understand the UFO phenomenon. And in this respect, I think it's fair to say that channeled material does not contribute very much of a factual kind. There isn't much of a factual kind in the channeled body of information. From that there is maybe differences to establish factually. If there is, we apply the normal rules of factual analysis to it. Let the facts stand on their own. If they come out of that test okay, we'll take it as fact. We don't have that much of it. What we have in the channeled body of material is a lot of ideas and concepts and belief systems. And just because they're that kind of stuff, there's no reason to ignore them. Because we need ideas and concepts and belief systems in order to make sense of the body of facts that we have associated with the UFO phenomenon by a careful process of assessment, categorizing, truth finding, and so on. But there is a very big pile of facts until we make sense of them, and we need a conceptual framework with ideas, notions, theories, and so on, with which to order them into something that might be an explanation of the things we don't know. We're trying to go from the things we know as facts to the things we don't know by this process of inference. And then we think we've made some sort of progress. We say we have developed some kind of understanding of this phenomenon. Okay, so it is in the field of ideas and concepts that channel material can be the most helpful. And I would like to illustrate this by making reference to a particular sample of channeled material. You've been looking here at this picture. It was published in something called the Voice of Universe series, which I became a subscriber to that publication. It was produced in the United States between the early 1970s and through most of the 70s. And I also obtained some back copies of their publications because I was keen to complete my collection of what they were printing. This picture refers to Clarion. Clarion is a planet described by a contactee called Bertram Russell. His experience, to my knowledge, happened in the 50s, in early or middle 50s. He was working with the road gangsters, building roads in the western desert of the United States. To get the exact place right now, during the hot days, a lot of the work, especially maintenance work, was done at night. So he would work maintaining the vehicles and machinery. And then he had what was a lunch break at midnight or thereabouts. He'd drive off into the desert to have his lunch in inverted commas. And on these occasions, he saw a large object land, he saw living beings come out of it. He had a repeated series of such sightings and encounters with the occupants, and became quite friendly with the lady captain that drove this thing, at a smallish type being, who said she came from a planet called Clarion, which was beyond the moon. That's the only description she gave us, and was a place we couldn't see with our telescopes. I believe that's what the word Clarion here refers to. And those of you who have read Alex Newell's recent book called Cold Evolution
may recognize a faint similarity between the diagrams in his book and the artwork in this picture. Has anyone seen that, read that book of Ufos? Anyone here? One, a few. Did you notice a similarity with the structures he shows on this world that he went to? And some of the images here? I certainly picked it up. And I thought you might be interested to see it. This thing was published in 1978. The channeled message that I'm going to use as reference, if I may have the next slide please, was first produced, was the claimed dating of it was 1967. I'll give you the date here. The communication was given in March 1967 to a person called Marian Harthill. And the claimed source of this communication was Myron of the Ashtar Command. Now, you've all heard of the Ashtar Command. Did you know that it was popular in the 1960s? If you didn't, then you hadn't realized how much recycled material you're getting in channel sources. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily false. The Ashtar Command is really probably around for a long time. I'm not concerned here to evaluate the truth or not of channel material, but just to look at it. Okay, the Ashtar Command's been around for a long time. Now, look at that. The title of this particular message is Guidelines of Space Contact. The guidelines of space contact are these. I've also included on that page the source from which I got it. Notice it's the voice of Universarius. The person editing and publishing it was an elderly gentleman called Zelram Carlsley, whom I met in 1980 in Portland, Oregon. This particular issue was number 17 of October, volume 17 of October 1978. And notice that had been going for 17 years at that point. Number 10, of course, is for the 10th month. These are monthly issues. I don't have time to go through all of them in detail. I wish to make specific reference to paragraph number 6, which is on the next slide, please. We should look at that one. Paragraph number 6. The Earth is a battleground. The forces of evil employ ships of great size and beauty, just as do the Christ force. Now, you may recall that in the 50s and 60s, the space lovers were all benevolent, wonderful, beautiful beings. In the 1990s, there are no space lovers of benevolent, wonderful inclination. They're all bad, this was fun from one extreme to the other. So in 1967, somebody was saying they're both fine. And you can't tell the difference by seeing how lovely the spaceships are. Number 2, unprepared Earthlings who see contact must not do so without knowledge of how to set up a positive force field and hold it around themselves. In other words, don't just rush into a contact, protect yourself first. Is that bad advice in today's context? Next item. The negative forces can and do abduct thousands of people each year off the surface of the Earth, as well as animals, water, and vegetation. Now, we knew a fair bit about that then. We know a lot more about it today. These samples are used for a hideous purpose. The source here didn't think that abductions, or what we today call the various genetically related procedures that seem to be associated with abduction, are necessary for a very nice purpose. And a lot of people they don't think so either, and I count myself as one of them. I have serious moral qualms about the whole thing. I don't think most people do the sort of things that we learn about. Now, this was available in 1967. I don't think it's much out of date today. It's extremely up to date, I think. And it illustrates that we can profit by taking notice of some of the better quality channeled materials. I'm not saying we should believe it or necessarily accept it as true, just be aware of the ideas. Because then when the facts come your way, that those ideas might help you to make sense of, you'll take a lot less time to make the connection. That's the kind of thing I'm saying. That's the kind of use that I would suggest we make of channeled material. So we're not trying to decide if they're genuine or not, if the electric source is real or not, if they have an ulterior motive or if they're honest or not. These are important questions. If channeling is the very center of your involvement and interest, these are issues that you have to deal with. If you're concerned with unraveling the UFO phenomenon and having a look at channeled information because it seems to be talking about the UFO phenomenon too, or for any reason at all, you're really using it as a source of ideas and concepts. Maybe somebody has thought of something you didn't think of. Or maybe somebody's trying to get a message through more noise and is using this particular avenue for doing it. Maybe I and each of us have a particular mental block, and one particular avenue of communication can get past it. I think that's probably where I can conveniently stop. The conclusions that we can draw from this are, as I've suggested, that we could profitably look at least the better quality scientific channeled material. And I can always remind ourselves that doing UFO research is like walking down the street. We gather facts, we make sense of them, we gather more facts, we make more sense of them. And while some might specialize in one field and others specialize in the other field, we have to do both in order to gain the understanding that we are believing. Thank you very much.
Ancient places speak of great civilizations that once flourished, then passed into memory. Though we have learned to decipher artifacts and ruins like this, mystery often dwells here. Why, with razor-sharp precision, do so many monuments of antiquity seem to point towards certain stars in the sky? Why do so many ancient texts contain references to strange flying objects centuries before the invention of the airplane?
In all of the classical ancient cultures that we know of, there have been descriptions of unusual aerial phenomena. And in many cases, these can be interpreted as some kind of craft piloted by intelligent beings.
What are UFOs? Do they exist? If so, could they originate from elsewhere in the universe?
I think it's obvious that there are many other intelligent life forms in the universe, and I don't dismiss for a moment the possibility that they have visited Earth, perhaps in the past, perhaps even now.
With the recent discovery that life might have once existed on Mars, it is surely one of the most enduring of mysteries. Are we alone, or have we been visited by travelers from other worlds? Join us as we attempt to unravel the riddle of ancient UFOs. 1000s of years we've gazed in awe at the night sky. In watching their slow yet relentless movement across the heavens, people discovered that the changing pattern of stars precisely matched the ebb and flow of seasons. This allowed for the development of the calendar and the rise of agriculture. But some objects in the sky followed neither pattern nor orderly path, seeming to defy the natural laws that bind all things.
These unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, challenged human understanding, provoking a quest that continues to this day.
We have to say UFO evidence goes back as far as man has left any records at all, because even in ancient cave art 20,000 years ago or so, in France and Spain, there are objects, drawings that look like modern flying saucers. So you'd have to go back that far if you wanted to start some point in time when the first UFO report was recorded.
Forever frozen in silence and in stone, these provocative drawings raise questions to which we may never find an answer. Do the shapes represent gods or ancestral spirits? Or are they ancient depictions of spacecraft, as many believe them to be? Texts from the world's earliest civilizations, including Sumeria some 5,000 years ago, mention strange aerial phenomena and the beings who controlled them.
There are ancient records in which people describe different kinds of flying objects which they have seen. In some cases, the people were describing what they understood to be flying vehicles piloted by various categories of living beings. There are written accounts which describe this in great detail.
Are we perhaps reading too much into images like this?
A lot relates to how you interpret the signs that we see. Is a sketch on the wall an alien in a space helmet? Is it a diving helmet? Or is it just a decorative piece of work from a science fiction writer of several thousand years ago? So the further back you go, the harder it is to interpret.
Despite increasing public support for the notion that UFOs may have been visiting the Earth since the dawn of history, the scientific community is overwhelmingly skeptical about the subject.
Ancient people saw weird things in the sky, and they were convinced that these were symbols of God's intentions. Their lives were controlled by the gods. And in every case that I'm aware of, there's an alternate explanation. It could have been a meteor which they didn't understand. It could have been some small lightning. It could have been any kind of thing that was just totally unknown to further that. And so they always interpret these things in terms of supernatural.
Despite scientific skepticism, the annals of human affairs contain many curious examples of strange objects seen in the sky. One of the earliest written records of an encounter with a UFO comes from Egypt more than 3,500 years ago.
There's a story about three Egyptian pharaohs who saw circles of fire in the sky, and it started off with one, and then the report says that there were a few days later, there were many of them in the sky. And they were so impressed that this was recorded on a papyrus and considered very momentous.
In the year 22 of the third month of the winter, a circle of fire appeared in the sky. After some days, it became more numerous and shone with the brightness of the sun, extending to the very limits of the heavens. The record of Pharaoh Tutmosis, 14 BC. Tutmosis was not alone. 11 centuries later, during his invasion of Asia, the mighty Greek leader Alexander the Great is chronicled as having witnessed UFOs. While crossing the river in 329 before the Common Era, Alexander and his men observed what are described as gleaming silver shields in the sky. The objects repeatedly swooped down on the column of soldiers, scattering men and horses in panic. 7 years later, while attacking the Phoenician city of Tyre in the eastern Mediterranean, Alexander again encounters UFOs. Recorded by observers on both sides of the conflict, one of the objects suddenly shoots a beam of light on the city wall, which crumbles into dust, allowing Alexander and his troops to easily breach the defenses and take the city. The passage of centuries leaves us with little proof of whether the events really took place, or were merely the products of fertile and imaginative minds.
Remember, the working hypothesis for historians for hundreds of years has always been that mankind is alone, that there are no intruders from outer space, that there were no advanced civilizations, that our civilization, in each generation census, is at the peak. We're it. Well, unless you throw out those assumptions, there's no way you're going to get at the truth of these whole accounts.
Many of the accounts are mystifying indeed, often from reputable and reliable sources. Medieval Europe was the scene of a mysterious incident in 1463, when a strange slab-like object appeared in the sky. Surrounded by flames and a bright light, it glided eerily above the landscape. This drawing was made by Hermann Schatten, a witness to the event. A century later, another witness recorded this unearthly occurrence above the skies of Nuremberg, Germany. On the morning of April 14, 1561, huge round cylinders appeared above the city. Smaller circular objects emerged from them, appearing to engage in battle with one another. 5 years later, a similar display occurred above Basel, Switzerland. This time, many of the objects attacked one another, were consumed by fire, and then vanished without a trace. Once again, the encounter was documented by a local witness. By the early 19th century, the entire world seemed to be resonating to the mysterious presence of unidentified flying objects. What were they? Where did they come from? Countless theories were proposed.
A lot of the ancient stories about UFOs are really stories about angels and leprechauns and things of that sort, which existed in the mythology of the time. They're, I think, a product of the very powerful fantasy ability of the mind. After all, everyone dreams.
The subject of UFOs is a sensitive one, with supporters on opposing sides of an ongoing debate.
We have today an enormous body of evidence of people seeing consistently reported beings in terms of their shape, their size, little details that indicate a phenomenon going on where those beings are associated with spacecraft, flying saucers, call them what you want. So I think, as an explanation, people are just seeing these same leprechauns that they saw before. It's a foolish explanation. Maybe the people back then were seeing the same little gray guys that are coming here now.
For centuries, scholars have grappled with the question of what UFOs may be, the possible identity of their occupants, and where they may have come from. Many now look to an unlikely source for the answers. The saga of events that once played out against the landscape of the Middle East is enshrined in the Western world's most revered book, the Holy Bible. In recent years, the Bible has been increasingly touted by some scholars as a collection of stories describing encounters with aliens and UFOs. But the topic is controversial. Can the sacred nature of the biblical text be challenged?
With the decline of religion that has been experienced by a great many people, I think people are looking for an alternative that is more scientific. And so the possibility of life is one that has been suggested by scientists. So the next best thing to having a supernatural intervention in our world is to have UFOs visiting us from another civilization. So I think there's a certain would-be religious urge that has moved in the direction of supporting UFOs.
The search for humanity's first possible contact with alien beings in prehistoric times leads to an unlikely place. The Bible's earliest chapters, to the book of Genesis. Genesis describes conditions in the world at the dawn of time.
There were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Genesis 6:4.
Who were the giants in the earth? And what exactly were the sons of God mentioned in the text? While most English Bibles use the word of giants, the original Hebrew word is Nephilim.
One translation of the word Nephilim is the men who came down, or those who came down, meaning those who came down from the sky. So it may not be necessarily that they're physical giants. It could just be something like great heroes that came down from the sky and produced a hybrid race.
For many scholars, hoping to unlock the mystery of UFOs in the ancient world, the Bible contains other intriguing clues.
The Bible is full of UFO references that can be interpreted as such, and they were very well recorded. One of the best examples of classic UFO stories is the story of Moses.
3,500 years ago, an epic period in biblical history begins when Israelite slaves are finally released from bondage in Egypt. Under the leadership of Moses, they began a 40-year trek through the wilderness and route to the Promised Land. But according to the Bible, something very mysterious guides the multitude through the barren desert.
The Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud, and leads the way, and by night in a pillar of fire, to give them light. Exodus 14:21.
Some believe the biblical passage contains another dimension in the meaning long cherished by most Christians and Jews.
Some people interpret the pillar of smoke and pillar of fire that Moses followed through the wilderness as being similar to a cigar-shaped UFO. It expresses a theme of an extraterrestrial intelligence, some sort of advanced form of life and intelligence is guiding man, something that's higher than man.
Some of the most intriguing biblical passages concern Mount Sinai and the handing down of the Ten Commandments.
Mount Sinai was covered in smoke because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and the smoke ascended as the smoke in a furnace, and the whole night quaked loudly. And when the voice of the trumpet sounded and waxed louder, Moses spake, and God answered. Exodus 19:18.
When Moses returned with the Ten Commandments after his encounter with God or Jehovah on Mount Sinai, his skin mysteriously shines with an unearthly glow. His hair has turned snow white.
The story of Moses has been tied in with an extraterrestrial encounter. His hair was turned white, which some have linked with the possibility of radiation exposure and so forth. Seeking to see how this could be regarded as a classic UFO encounter.
The notion that the Israelites may have been led to the Promised Land by some form of extraterrestrial entity has attracted many adherents in the last few decades. But understandably, scientists and religious leaders fiercely challenge the idea.
We're dealing very much with an interpretation, and we're dealing with an issue that I think has potential for being highly controversial, because after all, if you say that Jehovah is an ET, then that changes the basis of Judaism and Christianity in a very fundamental way. But it is a question of interpretation.
It's so easy to speculate. You can look at almost any story and find something that could have been signs of an extraterrestrial. But what you have to do, if you want to have such an incredible explanation, you have to have very strong proof. Otherwise, you just don't.
Hints at possible biblical connections with extraterrestrials or UFOs are not confined to the book of Exodus. In the second book of Kings, there is the intriguing story of the prophet Elijah, who lived around 900 years before the time of Jesus. While Elijah crosses the river Jordan with his son Elisha, a strange airborne craft appears.
And it came to pass as they went on and talked that, behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind from the heavens. And Elisha saw it and cried, and saw his father no more. 2 Kings 2:11.
In all ancient cultures, you'll have descriptions of flying chariots. For example, the chariot drawn by horses that flies through the sky and so on. In many cases, people today will interpret these as UFOs, that is, some kind of vehicle that flies under its own power.
Just over 3 centuries after Elijah's ascent into heaven in a chariot of fire, another strange incident occurred. This time, it concerns the Hebrew prophet Ezekiel. He is believed to have encountered alien spaceships on at least 4 separate occasions. In one account, he describes a clearly mechanical device under the control of human-like figures.
I saw 4 wheels, one wheel beside each chariot. In appearance, they were like sparkling topaz, and all 4 were alike, like a wheel within a wheel. They moved in any 4 directions, never swerving from their course. Ezekiel 10:2.
Based on the biblical description of the strange flying device, in the 1960s, NASA engineer Joseph Blumenrich constructed this model. Is this what Ezekiel saw?
I don't know what Ezekiel saw, if he saw anything. One possibility is he was dreaming. Another possibility is some hallucinogenic mushroom or something of that sort. Another possibility is that he met another tribe that might have had torches and masks that were very frightening to him. And he just saw something otherworldly that he couldn't explain. And so he made up this story that explained it as that Ezekiel was the terms that he understood in his time.
Whatever happened during the biblical period, an intriguing question remains. Could UFOs and extraterrestrials have been involved in some of the pivotal events in human history? Artifacts discovered throughout the Near East speak of a time when humanity's ancestors came to Earth from the heavens. Hundreds of clay tablets and cylinder seals depict human-like beings with wings, linking them with the sky, and always conspicuous, the stars.
If you look at the ancient history of the Near East and consider the Sumerians and Babylonians, you'll find that these people believed that their civilization was given to them by beings who came down from the heavens.
There's nothing in the historical record that is really conclusive. There are some intriguing stories in records of Babylon, for example, but the human mind is so easily able to invent myths and fantasies that we have to take these ancient stories with a grain of salt.
Yet archaeologists have often pondered on the exact process which led to civilization as we know it. For it was with the suddenness of a sunrise that human ingenuity and engineering skills arose from the Stone Age and burst forth onto the landscape of history. The Sphinx and the Great Pyramid of Giza are two of the greatest enigmas of all time. The exact dates of their construction are still cause for debate. How did ancient people develop the technology to build the Great Pyramid with a discipline and precision still unmatched today?
The Great Pyramid of Egypt stands more than 450 feet tall. It weighs more than 6 million tons, and it has a footprint in excess of 13 acres. It's perfectly aligned to true north, south, east, and west. To achieve that precision of alignment with a monument on this scale is an extraordinary technological feat, and one that is continuously overlooked by our scholars today. Suddenly, out of nowhere, this extraordinary monument, a high-tech achievement by any standard, just appears on the desert. This is a great mystery, totally unexplained by conventional history, and one that requires us to use our minds and our imagination and intelligence to try to work out what on earth is going on here, and what it says about the origins of human civilization, of the origins of our society, and our view of the past and where we came from. My sense is that we're missing a huge part of the human story. I think it's possible, indeed probable, that we are a species with amnesia, that we've lost the record of our story going back thousands of years before so-called history began. And I think if we could go back into that dark epoch, we would discover many astounding things about ourselves.
Egypt and the Near East are not the only regions where ancient ruins provocatively taunt the mind with the mystery of how they came into being. There are many such places. This is one of them. The great ceremonial center known as Tiahuanaco in Bolivia. Not as old or as imposing as the pyramids of Egypt, what makes this site so unusual is its unique location. Some believe that it could not have been built without intervention from a superior source.
The biggest blocks at Giza weigh 200 tons. The biggest blocks at Tiahuanaco weigh 400 tons. 400-ton blocks of stone used to create enormous constructions, 12,500 feet above sea level, in an area where it's almost not possible to grow any food today. The altitude is so high that the crops come out of the ground stunted. And yet again, we're asked to believe that this was done with massive labor forces hauling on ropes, pulling these blocks along. It defies belief to imagine that this will happen. That you could not support ever a large labor force at that altitude. Whether we like it or not, we're looking at the evidence of a technology, and one that we don't understand. Like the Giza site, the site of Tiwanaku also incorporates extremely precise astronomical alignment.
Perhaps the most perplexing sight of all in South America is the Nazca Lines in Peru. Covering more than 200 square miles, a bewildering pattern of gigantic artwork litters the Nazca Plateau. In addition to figures of birds, spiders, and animals, arrow straight lines stretch out to every point of the compass. Believed to have been laid down here more than 2,000 years ago. What was their purpose? Observable only from a great height, is this a canvas of signs and symbols etched in the sand to honor pagan gods? Or, as some people believe, do they contain hidden messages aimed at ancient travelers from the stars?
These are very remarkable sculptures made by essentially moving pebbles so as to change the color tone of the desert surface. It appears that many of these patterns of lines seem as though they're oriented towards the heavens in some way. We really don't know what they were for or what or how they were interpreted by the people who made them.
I think that this may be one explanation, that the Nazcans were projecting these into the sky and using them for religious and ceremonial purposes. But the Nazca lines really do constitute mystery. No one really knows what they were for.
Like so much of the ancient world, Nazca broods silently, its secrets lost in time. Asia, ageless land of 1,000 legends. It is also a continent of intriguing mysteries. During the 1920s, while exploring northern China, famous Russian artist Nicholas Roerich wrote of a remarkable incident in the Himalayas.
On August 5th, we were in Afghan, and at about 9:30, some of our caravanners noticed a huge shining oval shape flying high overhead. It came from the north at great speed, crossing our camp before disappearing in the clear blue sky. It had a bright golden surface, brilliant in the sun. Nicholas Roerich travel died in 1936.
In the long history of this vast and beautiful continent, has the UFO phenomenon shaped myths and stories handed down from generation to generation? A brief glance at the texts of ancient India is revealing. But here too, we find the haunting presence of strange phenomena observed in the sky.
Gurkha, flying a swift and powerful Vimana, hurled a single projectile charged with all the power of the universe. An incandescent column of smoke and flame, as bright as 10,000 suns, rose with all its splendor. The Mongols.
From Compiled some 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, the Mahabharata is a Hindu poem written in Sanskrit. 10 times longer than Homer's Iliad and Odyssey combined, it is a saga of conflict on a cosmic scale.
The part of the Mahabharata, which is the great epic of ancient India, has to do with an invasion of the Earth by negative extraterrestrial forces. Basically, the idea was that governments of the Earth were taken over by beings coming from other planets who had the desire to control and exploit the situation for their own personal benefit. The story goes on to describe how godly forces intervened, and finally there was a great battle here on the Earth in which the issue was resolved, and the negative forces were repelled.
Another epic poem, the Ramayana, was written more than 2,000 years ago. It too tells of conflict and conflagration in India's distant past.
The Vimana was a weapon so powerful that it could destroy the earth in an instant. It made a great soaring sound in smoke and flames, and on it sits death, the Ramayana.
Prominently featured in all these stories are strange flying devices referred to as Vimanas. What were they? Could they have been UFOs?
The Vimana is described in some detail, and its flight pattern is also described. Quite interesting because it is very similar to the pattern of flight, which is described in the context of modern UFO sightings. For example, the Vimana would move in a very abrupt zigzag fashion. It would sometimes disappear from sight.
The earth shook, scorched by the terrible violent heat of this weapon. Elephants burst into flame and ran to and fro in frenzy. Over a vast area, other animals crumpled to the ground and died. From all directions, the arrows of flame rained continuously and fiercely from the Vimana. The Mahabharata.
They were described as flying fortresses that were used for aerial battle. They also attacked people on the ground. They sent out missiles according to the translations, interpretations. Sort of like a modern UFO report, except war was taking place.
Could great aerial battles have been possible more than 2,000 years ago? Compelling though the stories may be, were they fact or fantasy?
I think the ancient Hindu descriptions of flying machines are probably fantasies, sort of like the Buck Rogers myths of flying rocket ships long before they really existed. The easy way out? Mythology. Old science fiction, if you will. The realistic way is to say that those people were describing things that they didn't understand, but that were real. What we need is an open-minded effort to look at these things from the viewpoint of modern technology, possibly admitting that even we can't do some of the things that are described.
While many now believe that the Earth has been visited by extraterrestrials in their spacecraft, could this indeed have been possible? Reports of strange, unidentified flying objects have continued to trickle in throughout the centuries, echoing incidents in ancient times. In the 1940s, the term flying saucer had entered the vocabulary of a stunned and fascinated world. Suddenly, seemingly everywhere, the skies were filled with UFOs of every description. In the ensuing decades, UFOs were witnessed by people from all levels of society. Even astronauts saw them.
I personally believe in UFOs, and I believed in UFOs before I got into the space program.
I just personally believe that there are other civilizations somewhere out there that people are traveling from. This was in the early 1950s when I was flying fighters in Germany. And these objects were coming over our base that appeared to be the same kind of formation that we fly in our fighters. On occasion, their movements were more erratic than ours, which meant they could really accelerate laterally and accelerate 4.5 more readily than we do. But we felt that they looked very much like high-flying fighters, except they had no wings. They were certainly higher and faster than any airplanes we know of here on Earth at that particular time. And they certainly appeared to be softer shape and metallic.